So this morning, it's very early actually, and this morning I'm headed out for New York City, Manhattan. Lowest moments, could I see your hand? There's only two times in your life that you learn. You learn when you're happy, you learn when you're sad. And we go through these things in our life, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad. And I was at one of those low moments in my life, and we went to a timeshare retreat that somebody had given us a weekend, some people that had it. And I was laying there in bed at night, and it was at my lowest moment, and I flipped on the television, and there was a video on PBS or some station of Les Brown giving his seminar, and changed my life. Let me ask you, how many of you realize that we are in the presence of greatness today? I want to ask you another question. How many of you realize that you are that greatness? You made the statement, quit putting these people on a pedestal, but we all have our mentors. We all have people that we have learned from and that have changed our lives, and I'm one of those guys. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, and I've been that guy for 26, 27 years of building companies. And I remember starting my first company when I was 19 years old. Now, it had been my dream throughout my teenage years to build a big publishing empire. And I used to drive around. Anybody from Texas here today? Anybody in Texas? Woo! Texas in the house. I lived in Tyler, Texas, and I used to drive around Tyler, Texas in my car looking at buildings, wondering which of them would be big enough to someday house my publishing empire. Now, I happened to be driving a 78 Pontiac Le Mans with a headliner hanging down and a broken gear shift that was held together with a coat hanger, but I had big dreams. And I started my first company at 19 years old. I want to share with you 3 stories today. I started my first company when I was 19 years old, and I had those happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad moments of failure. And about 25 years old, when all my friends were getting out with their masters of business and whatever, I was getting out with my master's of the School of Hard Knocks of building companies, and found myself sitting in a little room where they were about to hold our bankruptcy hearing. Anybody ever been at a low moment in your life? And as I sat there, I made myself 2 promises. The first promise that I made to myself was that I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to give up. I remembered a sign that hung in my grandfather's study that said, "Winners never quit and quitters never win." Now, we've all seen that, but I needed that at that moment. And the second promise that I made to myself was that I was going to search and seek until I found the answer to what it took for me to be a success. And it was about that time I found, he's already left, Bob Proctor, I found Les Brown, I found Zig Ziglar, I found Jim Rohn, and all these people that have made a difference in our lives in this room. I was born the son and grandson of a preacher, and all I ever knew as far as the book was the Bible. And when I was about 22 years old, I discovered books and tapes, and it changed my life. How many of you, your life was changed when you discovered books and tapes and the personal development? That's why we're all here, to honor Bob in this industry, right? And so I began to listen and prepare my mind for an opportunity. And I had a guy that came to me just after we had come out of bankruptcy. Had a guy that came to me and he said, "You're in the publishing business right now, aren't you?" And I said, "Not right now." He had failed once again. And he said, "I have an idea. I was out in California and I saw a publication that I think would make it here in East Texas. And if you would put it out, I'll be your first advertiser." And I don't know if any of you have ever been in the publishing world, but a lot of magazines and publications are in the red for many, many months or years at a time before they get up and off the ground. And we put together a mock-up and a dummy, and we went out in 6 weeks. We sold the thing into the black and put out our first publication. 3.5 years later, we built a chain of these magazines across multiple states, and we sold the company. And my wife came to me and she said, "Well, what are you going to do now? You're too young to retire." And I remembered back to all those things that had changed my life, and I said, "Well, I've always wanted to write books and speak." And she said, well, I think you ought to do that. And as I began to listen to folks standing up here today, it seems like the room here is full of people with a passion. People with a passion to change the lives of others, right? And so I jumped in, and guess what I did? I went out there and I became an amazing success from day one in the speaking business. How many of you believe that? Any of the people in the front row realize how naive I must have been? So after building a successful business, remember, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, right, Michael?
And then they were looking at spending all kind, 30 grand putting together a Salesforce CRM and blah, blah, blah.